In 2003, Lego was about 90 days from bankruptcy. The company that made the most beloved toy in the world was losing money faster every year. The product line had grown to include theme parks, video games, action figures, fashion accessories, watches, and a lifestyle brand called Lego Wear. The classic plastic brick, the thing the entire company was supposed to be about, was getting drowned by everything else. The man who saved Lego didn't invent a new toy. He didn't pivot to digital. He didn't open new markets. What he did was kill most of what Lego was doing. This is a comeback story. And it's the seventh and final case in this 7-episode arc on the 4 forces. Quick recap. Every company is shaped by 4 forces: market, the conditions they operate in; money, how they're funded, and what that costs them; management, the decisions made at the top; moment, the timing and events they didn't choose. All 4 are always present. Only one is decisive. Let's find Legos. The toy market in the late 1990s and early 2000s was hard, but in a particular way. Big box retailers, Walmart, Target, Toys R Us, were squeezing toy company margins. Children's attention was getting fragmented by video games, by cable television, eventually by the internet. The traditional construction toy category, which Lego had basically defined for 40 years, was being challenged by cheaper competitors and by license-driven action figures from Disney and Marvel. Lego's leadership in the 1990s read this market correctly in a general sense. They saw that a toy company had to be more than a toy company. The mistake was in the response, which we'll get to in the management section. But here's the thing about the market itself. Toy industry revenue globally was growing through this entire period. Children weren't disappearing. The interlocking brick category itself was still essentially uncontested. Mega blocks existed, but never seriously threatened Lego on quality or breadth. The market was hard, but not dying. A focused, well-run Lego had a market it could win in. The problem was the version of Lego that existed in 2003 wasn't focused or well-run. Market, a hard environment, with an open lane for the right player. Lego is privately held by the Kirk Christiansen family, which makes the financial picture different from any company we've covered on this channel. There was no LBO, there was no hedge fund extracting value, there was no public market pressure forcing quarterly choices. The family was, and is, a long-term steward. Lego was profitable through the 1990s. Then in the early 2000s, the losses started. 2003 was the worst year. Operating losses approaching $300 million on revenue around $1.5 billion. The company was spending more cash than it was generating. By some accounts, close to $1 million a day. Without the family's willingness to keep funding the company through the crisis, and without the board's willingness to bring in outside management, this story ends very differently. But money wasn't the killing force. Money was the patient force. The family's long-term horizon gave the new management room to make hard decisions without being forced into a fire sale. That's the asymmetry. In every other episode in this arc, money showed up as the constraint. In Lego, money showed up as the support. The same force that broke Toys R Us and bled Sears gave Lego the runway to fix itself. Money, a patient supportive force, not decisive. This is the decisive force, and the case has 2 halves. The bad management that almost killed the company and the good management that saved it. The bad half ran from roughly 1995 to 2003. Lego's CEO during this period was Kjeld Kirk Christiansen, the family's 3rd-generation owner. The strategy was diversification. The reasoning was that toys was a category in long-term decline, and Lego needed to be a lifestyle brand. Clothing, watches, theme parks, video games, learning centers, software. Lego built 2 Legoland theme parks in Germany and California, on top of the existing one in Denmark and the UK. They licensed aggressively into apparel and watches. They tried to push the brand into adjacent toy categories where the modular brick wasn't the core idea. The trouble with this strategy is that almost every one of those side bets either lost money or distracted from the core. The theme parks consumed enormous capital. The lifestyle products competed with focused players in their own categories and rarely won. The result was that Lego the brand was getting bigger, while Lego the business was getting smaller. By 2003, the company was on the verge of bankruptcy. The family did the hardest thing a family-owned business can do. They brought in an outsider, the first non-family CEO in Lego's history. Jorgen Vig Knudstorp had joined Lego in 2001 from McKinsey, working first as director of strategy. In October of 2004, at age 35, he was named CEO. His turnaround playbook reads almost identically to Steve Jobs returning to Apple in 1997. He killed the theme parks. The Legoland parks were sold to Merlin Entertainments in July of 2005 for about £250 million, roughly $450 million US at the exchange rate of the time. Lego kept a minority stake in Merlin itself. The reasoning, the parks were valuable assets, but they were not what Lego the company should be running. Let an operator who actually runs theme parks run them. Let Lego get back to what Lego does. He killed the lifestyle products. Most of the watches, clothing lines, and brand extensions were shut down or licensed out. He killed most of the speculative product lines that had piled up. By the early 2000s, Lego's catalog of unique elements, distinct plastic pieces being manufactured, was variously reported at 13 to 14,000. Knudstorp drove that down to around 7,000. Each unique piece had a manufacturing setup cost and inventory cost, a complexity tax. Cutting them was painful internally. It was also enormously freeing financially. He doubled down on licensed sets. Star Wars, which Lego had begun licensing in 1999, was the proof case. By the mid-2000s, Lego was leaning hard into licensed properties. Harry Potter, later Marvel, DC, Disney. The reasoning was simple. The interlocking brick is the core asset. Whatever IP was popular this year could ride on that asset, and Lego would benefit either way. He invested in the AFOL community, adult fans of Lego. By 2004, an entire economy of grown-ups had formed around Lego sets, conventions, and online communities. Knudstorp's team treated them like the most valuable customers they were and built product lines specifically for them. By 2008, Lego was profitable again. By the first half of 2014, Lego had narrowly passed Mattel by revenue for the first time. The Lego movie came out the same year and grossed about $500 million at the box office, on top of selling Lego sets associated with it. By 2015, the lead over Mattel was clear and the title was secure. The pattern matches the Apple 1997 episode almost exactly. Cut the surface area, concentrate the resources, let the core compound. Management decisive. The 2008 financial crisis arrived right in the middle of Lego's recovery. Toy spending dropped. Many toy companies lost ground. Lego, by contrast, gained share through the crisis. The discipline of the previous 4 years left them better positioned to compete than the larger players who hadn't done the cutting work. The rise of digital entertainment was a moment force pushing against the entire physical toy category. Lego's response was not to abandon physical toys for digital. It was to build digital products that fed people back to the physical sets. Video games, apps, the Lego movies. Each was a marketing channel for the bricks, so the moment forces were genuine and largely worked in Lego's favor because the company was now disciplined enough to absorb them. Moment. A context, not decisive. So let's grade them out. Market, hard, but with an open lane for a focused player. Money, patient and supportive, thanks to the family ownership. Moment. Context, not cause. Management, decisive. Lego almost died from doing too much. It came back by saying no to the theme parks, to the lifestyle products, to half the manufactured pieces, to most of the surface area the previous strategy had built. Knudstorp's turnaround wasn't a creative breakthrough. It was a discipline breakthrough. The brick was always going to be Lego's asset. The job was to stop pretending Lego was a lifestyle brand and start running it like the focused construction toy company it had always been at its best. The cross-episode lesson is now clear enough to name. Across this 7-episode arc, the comeback stories, Apple in 1997 and Lego in 2004, are both stories about subtraction. Steve Jobs cut the product line from 40 to 4. Nuderstorp cut the parks, the lifestyle business, and half the unique elements. Different industries, different decades, different countries. Same move. The collapse stories on this channel, Toys R Us, Sears, Blockbuster, Kodak, Borders, all involve some version of trying to do too much or being forced to do too much by financial structure. The successful comebacks involve the choice to do less. If you're trying to apply this framework to a company you're watching today, the diagnostic question that matters most is rarely, what should they add? It's, what could they cut and what would they have left? That's the honest version of strategy. And it's the lens this channel is going to keep applying to every company we cover, no matter how the popular story is being told. That's the end of this opening 7-episode arc. The framework's been demonstrated across collapses and comebacks, across money, management, and market verdicts. From here, the channel goes broader. Older companies, more international stories, and at least one moment-decisive story we have not yet earned the right to tell. Subscribe if you want to see the framework keep a-working